I'm excited to be here. It sounds like you're doing some amazing things. I'm happy.
Dr. Diane has worked with multiple boards and top leaders from organizations like Adobe, McDonald's, General Motors, Yahoo, and NASA. With such an impressive background, Dr. Diane, could you please share a decision that truly transformed your life?
Oh, I was thinking about that when you asked me to be on this, and I've made so many decisions, but I think probably my decision to continue my education was a huge snowball effect in terms of what it led to. When I was in pharmaceutical sales, when I was young, they offered free education, a free master's at that time. I had not even considered going back to school. And hey, since they were offering it for free, I thought, I'll do this. And it got me more interested in continuing my education. And later it opened up my mind to going back for my PhD just to see how challenging it would be. I really had never considered getting anything more than a bachelor's degree when I was younger. And what it taught me was just every time you went back and learned something new, you opened up doors that you hadn't even considered. I never thought of writing a doctoral dissertation. I didn't even want to, really. I just wanted to see how hard it would be to do it. And turns out it's pretty hard, but it's something doable. And it made me do some other things later, more teaching and more speaking and writing. I wrote books because of it. My dissertation was regarding the impact of emotional intelligence on performance. So it got me interested in behavioral analysis and things I never thought I would ever focus on. And I think that education's changed so much now. It's not necessarily the time that everybody wants to go back and get a doctorate or whatever it is, but learning, that continuous learning, to always advance yourself is so important because think about the fonts that we have because of Steve Jobs taking a calligraphy course. It could be just one course like that. It could be one little thing that you just opened up your mind because you decided, I just want to see what that's about. I want to learn a little bit more. And that all led to me becoming a curiosity expert.
Wow, that's super insightful. Thank you for sharing how education became such a transformative journey for you. It's inspiring how one decision can snowball into so many opportunities. Could you share what key factors or maybe triggers led you to take that path?
Well, I mean, offering the master's made me go for the master's, but then later to go back to get my doctorate, that was something I'd kind of decided on my own after being I worked for AstraZeneca for nearly 20 years and being in sales for forever. And going after that, I was in banking and real estate and all these different things. And I really enjoyed taking the real estate courses when I was in it. I didn't want to sell real estate, but I wanted to learn about it. And I loved the education so much that I thought, well, that's kind of what sparked my interest in going back for my doctorate. I just wanted to learn something new, and I wanted it to be harder than what I'd already done because I like to make myself a little bit miserable. If I'm not just pushing myself, I get bored. And so going back to get my doctorate was so interesting because it wasn't, I don't even know, I hadn't really had any idea of what it would be like. And I had this crazy professor who, in one of these classes that changed everything. And it's funny because I dropped him because I thought he was nuts. I had him for about a week in this course, and it was a very important course where you had to determine your topic for your doctoral dissertation. And I knew I wanted to write about performance, sales performance specifically, and things that impacted it. So I had this phone call with this crazy guy, and he was so odd. When I got on the phone with him, he said, welcome to the cave. I'm going to eat you up like Jello pudding. And I tried not to laugh, and I'm thinking, what? He's just going to make it hard for me, was his point. He was going to make this challenging. And he asked me what my topic was, and I said I want to determine the factors that improve sales performance. And somehow, whatever I said, he goes, "Oh, that's such a great idea. You want to work with emotional intelligence and sales performance." And I thought, yeah, I didn't say that, but I didn't know what emotional intelligence was back then. And I thought, well, I got to look this up. I got to find out what this is. And of course, Daniel Goleman made it very popular, and other researchers made it very popular later. At that time, it was starting to become very popular. And I looked into that, which was very interesting to me. And that led to my interest in writing about it. But then I had to become certified to give emotional intelligence tests, and I had to learn more about personality assessment. And that led to me taking all these other personality training courses. And so it's just snowballed. And later, when I have my nationally syndicated radio show here in the United States, I had Daniel Goleman as a guest on my show, which was really fascinating. And basically, that one decision led to me creating my Curiosity Code Index, which is the only assessment that determines the factors that inhibit curiosity. I would have never thought of writing that. I would have never thought of creating that if all these things hadn't snowballed.
That's a really incredible journey, and it's fascinating how your professor's unconventional approach became a pivotal moment, sparking your exploration of emotional intelligence and curiosity. It's a powerful reminder for how impactful mentors and unexpected challenges can be in shaping our path. And for our listeners who might be at the crossroads themselves, what advice would you give about making those big life decisions?
Interesting because you hesitate sometimes to do things because it sounds too hard. It sounds too time consuming. It's like having a baby. There's never a good time, right? There's just never a good time. Having two kids, you just jump in, right? And I found that out. And I think with education, I think it's important to always be learning something. I mean, there's so much free education online now. I mean, you could spend forever on YouTube, Coursera, whatever. I have a course on Future Learn. I mean, there's just so many areas where you can get content, right? But I think having a formal education in some ways is a really good thing that I hope continues to some extent. I mean, I know it's not as popular as it was in the past, but I look at a la carte learning as missing some of the glue that holds everything together in a way. If you just take one course in this and one course in that, you might be missing humanities or just the literature or the things that you wouldn't take if you went for a business degree. Even if you go for a business degree, for example, they make you take all that stuff, right? They don't just give you business courses. And that makes you more well-rounded. You learn soft skills, you learn a lot of the things that are kind of hard to learn when you do an a la carte thing. So I love the a la carte idea as long as you supplement with things that you normally wouldn't take, like the calligraphy class or whatever is great, but you also need to learn behavioral things, maybe take psychology, maybe take something else, not just be super laser focused only in one area.
Yeah, your perspective on balancing formal education with diverse self driven learning is incredibly valuable, highlighting the importance of both structure and curiosity in fostering growth. Thank you for sharing this. It's a really powerful takeaway for anyone navigating their own learning journey. Please share what role traits like curiosity play in decision making. And maybe somebody can improve the ability to make better decisions simply by becoming more curious.
Definitely, yes. And definitely curiosity leads to everything that organizations are trying to fix. And I know that's a very broad statement, but think about it. I've had thousands of people I've interviewed for my show. And every time I ask somebody what comes first, curiosity or creativity, curiosity or communication, curiosity or emotional intelligence, whatever it is, if they're trying to fix it in the workplace, curiosity is the spark that ignites improved innovation, engagement, everything that they need to work on at work. So curiosity is so critical because if you can develop a curiosity culture at work where people can explore things, it opens you up to that sense of engagement, that what is interesting to you, why you have a passion for what you do. And that's why I work with organizations to help them develop this culture of curiosity. It's so critical to solving all the things that everybody wants to solve. And my work with perception was more about how important it is to look at how curiosity quotient, basically CQ, plus cultural quotient CQ, IQ, and EQ, emotional quotient, all kind of come together to create this perception process at work. Did I hear what that they intended me to hear? Are we communicating well? And that's what that perception area. And I worked with my co-author, Dr. Maya Zelahich, and we both were program chairs, and she later was a dean at the Forbes School of Business and Technology here in Arizona. We've done a lot of work in perception, and she kind of runs with that, and I kind of run more with the curiosity work. But it's so important to recognize that these assessments we've created help businesses, especially let's think about the Curiosity Code Index. What it does is it focuses on the factors that inhibit curiosity, right? And I created that because if you don't know why people aren't curious, how are you going to fix it, right? You kind of have to figure it out. So I determined with this research 4 factors that inhibit curiosity, and work with organizations to improve how employees recognize their fear, the assumptions or thoughts in their heads, and technology, which is really over and underutilization of it, and their environment. So their interactions with everybody with whom they've ever interacted in their entire life, including their current bosses, past bosses, teachers, everybody. So if you recognize all these things and create kind of SMART goals to create an action plan for overcoming the things that inhibit curiosity, then you can, really get some traction in building this culture of curiosity. In fact, I just came back from Luxembourg. You might have seen that. I worked with the Luxembourg School of Business as part of, I won the Fulbright Award to go work there. And we did this with local businesses, I mean, top organizations. And it's just so wonderful to see when people get that aha moment, like, this is what's been holding me back, and this is what I need to develop.
Yeah, curiosity truly is the foundation for so many critical aspects of workplace success, like creativity, communication, engagement, and innovation. All these together thrive when curiosity is cultivated. And Dr. Diane, your emphasis on creating a culture of curiosity, supported by tools like Curiosity Code Index, it really incredibly practical and actionable. Does fostering curiosity help individuals overcome fear and push past the barriers that hold them back?
I thought that fear would be the number one factor of all of them, but it was interesting. They were kind of spread out evenly across all 4. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay, and as someone who has worked with leaders from the world's biggest brands, what do you think is the most common decision-making blind spot among top executives and how it can be addressed?
Well, I think if you look at how I define curiosity for my work is really about getting out of status quo behaviors. It's not just learning something new. It's learning something new and making sure you don't just keep in this one little bubble of what's worked in the past. And I think a lot of leaders go, hey, this worked great. Let's just do that to death. And then it does go to death sometimes, where the company's like, Kodak or whatever, they think, oh, well, we don't want to cannibalize this product of print media, so we won't go with digital media, because where's that going to go? It's just going to take our business. But if you don't do that, then somebody else takes your business, right? So if
Ex-
you go along with what's always worked, that's going to be the thing that kills you in the end, which is hard because it's so comfortable. We love to be in status quo because, we did it before and it worked and it feels all nice and comfortable. But you have to make yourself uncomfortable, like I do with learning new things. If you don't, you just stagnate. And that's the biggest thing. I see a lot of leaders, that's their biggest thing that makes them not be successful.
Exactly. The challenge of stepping outside comfort zones and to embrace new ideas and approaches is something that all the leaders must tackle today. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but as you, Dr. Diane, pointed out, the discomfort is where growth and innovation happen. As a keynote speaker who has shared the stage with top voices like Steve Forbes, Marshall Goldsmith, Saul Hahn, Brené Brown, Martha Stewart, Damon John, Daniel Park, Travis Bradbury, and Jeffrey Hazlitt, what do you think are the key skills that make a great leaders?
Well, it's fun to watch other speakers speak. Usually you get to hear them, or even sometimes I'm on panels with them. I know I've been on panels with people like Daniel Pink and different other people who have written in similar areas to what I've written. But I think what it is that everybody comes at the problems from a unique perspective. I mean, they all are focusing on ways to improve leadership. I think, in addition to them having that sense of curiosity, they have a lot of emotional intelligence. But back to what I studied before, I think having emotional intelligence is so critical. It's about understanding your own emotions and recognizing them in others and then acting appropriately. And I think any good speaker has that thought in their head of who am I speaking to? Like right now, I might be speaking to Gen Z, right? So when I speak to Gen Z, I have to empathize and think about the issues that they would have as compared to maybe boomers, which would be a completely different crowd. So as you think about leaders, especially speakers like you were mentioning, I've shared the stage with, they focus their communication based on the needs of the people to whom they're communicating. And so it can be challenging. I gave a talk many years ago for Forbes about different generations in the workplace and the challenges that go along with that. And it's kind of fun to go back to look at it 10, 20 years later or however long it's been. I can't remember. And it's like very much the same issues. You've got different preferences for how we like to communicate, for how we like to interact. And to only do it your way and disregard the other person's way is a problem. You're losing that empathy. And empathy is a big part of emotional intelligence. The ability for me to feel what you're feeling, even though I don't have to agree with everything you're feeling or thinking or whatever, I have to acknowledge it and recognize it and base how I interact with you on that. And I think that developing emotional intelligence and curiosity are two of the most important skills that the really good leaders have done.
So, your thoughts about empathy and adaptability in leadership are incredibly relevant, especially in today's rapidly changing world. Yeah, emotional intelligence, curiosity, that's a key. But today, AI plays a bigger role in decision. It adds another challenge for leaders, yeah? And with AI increasingly influencing decision in business and leadership, do you think leaders are at risk of becoming too reliant on technology? And how can they strike the right balance between AI insights and human intuition?
It's interesting. As I mentioned, when I wrote the Curiosity Code Index, the one factor that inhibited curiosity was over and underutilization of technology, right? So my factors were FATE for fate, and the T was technology. And we hear a lot about people over relying on certain types of technology and under relying. If you don't have the foundation behind the technology and you just let it do everything for you, that's problematic. If you gave Einstein a calculator, never taught him the math, he'd be the greatest calculator worker in the world, but he wouldn't be who he was, right? So we need to learn how the technology comes up with what it comes up with. So if you do get a lot of the data that comes out, I mean, we know AI has hallucinations and some of the stuff that they say, it comes up with crazy stuff. It wants you to sound good. I mean, I put some data in it just to see how it did with math, and it just made my math wonderful. It wasn't correct, but it made me look really good. So you have to know that it's not right, or you're going to have data that's garbage, right? So you have to spend high tech and low tech time. Usually Gen Z and millennials are pretty good with technology. I mean, and they understand it very well. But it's also important to understand behind the scenes. I notice I've taken statistics 3 times in my education career. The first time I took it from undergrad, then my grad, and then my doctorate. And each time they taught me less about the foundations. The hard stuff was the bachelor level. It was brutal. You had to memorize all these, formulas, and I hated it. And then eventually I go, oh, this isn't so bad because they didn't make you have as much of the foundations behind it. So you may hate it a little bit, some of this, because it's harder, but it'll help you later to really be somebody that's influential because people know you know your stuff and you'll be the go-to person. Plus, you'll miss out on making mistakes because you've relied on technology that is not always accurate. So I think having high tech and low tech days at work is critical.
Thank you so much, Dr. Diane, for sharing your incredible insights on curiosity, emotional intelligence, and leadership. This conversation has been truly inspiring and packed with valuable takeaways for our audience. Guys, remember, asking the right questions is a powerful opportunity to learn and grow. If you want to dive deeper into Dr. Diane's groundbreaking work, be sure to check out her book, Cracking the Curiosity Code. It's available on Amazon. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next episode.